Seahawks fans are probably looking at this news thinking, wait, they gave up a draft pick for that? But once you really break it down, you start realizing this move might actually say a lot about what this team is trying to build behind the scenes. This wasn't some random move just to fill a roster spot. There's clearly a bigger plan here, especially with how much focus the team is putting on effort, competition, and all the little details that win games during the season. And honestly, some of the most important moves are the ones nobody talks about at first. If you're hyped about where this team is headed, smash that like button and drop "Go Hawks" in the comments if you're rocking with the squad this season. The Seattle Seahawks just made one of those quiet moves that usually flies completely under the radar at first, but when you really start digging into the details, it becomes obvious why the organization felt this was important. Seattle has officially traded for wide receiver and special teams standout Irv Charles from the New York Jets in exchange for a conditional 2028 seventh-round pick. And while a lot of fans might initially look at this trade and wonder why the Seahawks would spend draft capital on a player who is not expected to become a major offensive contributor, the deeper story here is all about special teams value, roster construction, and the kind of identity this coaching staff is trying to build moving forward. What immediately stands out is that Seattle did not give up a 2027 draft selection. The compensation being pushed into 2028 matters because there has been a growing belief that the 2027 NFL draft class could end up being significantly stronger and deeper than the following year. So, from Seattle's perspective, this becomes an even more manageable move financially and strategically. They preserve stronger future draft flexibility while still adding a player they clearly believe can immediately contribute in a meaningful role. Now, if fans are expecting Irv Charles to suddenly become one of the primary receiving weapons in this offense, that does not appear to be the expectation surrounding this move at all. The focus here is almost entirely tied to what he brings on special teams. That is the key part of this entire story. Charles has developed a reputation as an extremely effective gunner, someone capable of flying downfield on punts and kickoffs and consistently making disruptive plays. Before suffering a torn ACL, there was already significant praise surrounding his impact in that phase of the game. And that injury is important context here because Charles missed the entire 2025 season after tearing his ACL in 2024. That means Seattle is taking a chance on a player coming off a major injury, but the Seahawks clearly believe the upside is worth it. What makes this even more interesting is the grading data that was highlighted regarding Charles's special teams performance. According to PFF grades mentioned during the report, Charles ranked among the elite special teams players in football across consecutive seasons, finishing as the 5th best player one year and 12th best the next in those evaluations. Even if people debate grading systems, numbers like that are difficult to completely dismiss because they usually indicate a player consistently doing the small things at a very high level. When you look deeper into his background, Charles has appeared in 25 career games with the Jets and already has a blocked punt on his resume. He also accumulated multiple tackles while operating as a gunner, reinforcing exactly what Seattle seems to value about him. This is a player expected to sprint downfield aggressively, pressure return units, create hidden yardage situations, and potentially swing field position in subtle but critical moments. And honestly, this entire move feels perfectly aligned with the direction the Seahawks coaching staff wants to take this roster. The organization has repeatedly emphasized the importance of special teams. Jay Harbaugh's role within the staff has been highlighted because Seattle wants that phase of the game to become a legitimate advantage. That is why adding someone like Irv Charles becomes more significant than casual fans may initially realize. It is not necessarily about offensive production. It is about improving one of the smaller hidden areas that often decides close games throughout an NFL season. At the same time, another major development came through regarding Dante Fowler Jr. and the full details of his contract with Seattle. Once the numbers became available, it became very clear why this deal made so much sense for the Seahawks. Fowler signed a one-year contract built around flexibility and low risk for the organization. The structure includes a strong base salary around $2.5 million with additional incentives available depending on his participation and production. In total, the deal can reportedly reach up to $6 million if everything breaks correctly. The important part here is that Seattle did not put itself into a dangerous salary cap position. Fowler's cap hit reportedly sits around $2.5 million, while the dead cap attached to the contract is only about $500,000. That means, if things work out, Seattle potentially gets a productive veteran contributor on a bargain contract. If things do not work out, the financial consequences remain extremely manageable. This type of contract tells you a lot about how Seattle currently wants to operate. The Seahawks appear determined to stay flexible rather than overcommitting long-term. Fowler gets an opportunity to prove he can still play at a high level while potentially competing for something meaningful in Seattle. And the Seahawks maintain the freedom to pivot later if necessary. It is the kind of calculated roster management that often helps teams remain competitive without getting trapped financially. Beyond the trade and contract news, there were also several OTA observations that started generating attention internally around the team. One of the names drawing positive reactions was Jadarian Price. Reports from practice suggested he handled difficult weather conditions well during drills, including making catches in rainy conditions and reportedly beating linebacker Chaz Surratt on one notable play. Considering that catching consistency had previously been viewed as an area needing improvement for him, these early observations immediately became noteworthy. Another OTA moment that stood out involved Drake Thomas recording an interception during practice. While there was uncertainty surrounding whether the play resulted from an excellent defensive read by Thomas or some type of confusion offensively, the takeaway remained positive for the linebacker. Thomas reportedly continued building on the momentum from what was described as a strong previous season, where he grew into the will linebacker role and became a valuable addition to the defense. Then there was Jalen Milroe, who generated attention because of his mobility during practice. One specific sequence reportedly showed him deciding to tuck the football and run after finding nobody open downfield. That play added fuel to the growing belief that Seattle wants to involve Milroe in creative ways offensively, whether that means specialized packages, red zone situations, or simply introducing a different pace within the offense. The idea of the Seahawks actively searching for ways to maximize his athletic ability is becoming harder to ignore. Defensively, Devin Witherspoon's OTA attendance also became a discussion point because he was actively present despite ongoing conversations surrounding a possible future contract extension. That visibility was viewed positively internally because it demonstrated engagement and commitment during off-season activities. Overall, Seattle reportedly had excellent OTA attendance, with only a small group of main contributors absent from practice, including DeMarcus Lawrence, Derek Hall, Dante Fowler Jr., and Emmanuel Wilson. However, there did not appear to be concerns surrounding those absences because communication between the players and the organization was reportedly clear throughout the process. What makes all of this fascinating is how interconnected these developments actually are. The Seahawks are clearly emphasizing roster depth, flexibility, competition, and hidden advantages. Whether it is a special team specialist like Irv Charles, a low-risk contract structure for Dante Fowler Jr., or experimenting with new offensive wrinkles involving Jalen Milroe, the organization appears focused on building layers throughout the roster instead of relying on only one or two headline moves. And sometimes those quieter off-season decisions end up becoming some of the biggest reasons teams succeed later in the year. What do you think about the Seahawks trading for Irv Charles and the direction Seattle seems to be taking with these off-season moves? And now the big question is whether moves like this are exactly what the Seahawks need heading into the season, or if fans were expecting something much bigger from the front office. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now because I really want to know how you feel about the Irv Charles trade, the Dante Fowler Jr. contract, and everything we're seeing from OTAs so far. If you enjoyed this update, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, and turn on notifications so you never miss any breaking Seahawks news. And don't leave yet. Click the video that's on your screen right now because the latest Seahawks updates are waiting for you there first.